All right. This should be we should be live nowish. I believe the stream is live. Yep. So welcome, any listeners, to the Fantasy Bibles Sunday Mass, our live show coming to you live. It's just kind of complain in general. And right off the bat, Dane, I definitely have something that I want to get off my chest.
Sure, go ahead. I won't stop you.
Can we talk about the fraudulent joke of an organization that is the fantasy footballers?
Sure. Where you coming from with this? A
So,
bad take you heard recently, or what?
well, I think all their takes are pretty bad. Like, I think consistently they are not good at what they do from like a sheer like delivering good fantasy takes to the people. Like, I don't think they really go any deeper than their own kind of like gut feelings, and kind of like the stats that they've created in their own little lab that don't actually like bear out like real DVOA or EPA type stats.
This is
Um,
coming off pretty aggressive. Well, what happened, Nathan?
um,
Are you okay?
so like if I was going to make like a league for like people to participate in that like fantasy bible, I would like make it easy for them to like make the changes in that league, and it would just like kind of be an easy, there wouldn't be like a bunch of weird random rules. So for example, if like Lamar Jackson gets declared out as a kind of a surprise on 11:45 a.m. on a Sunday morning, I'd like to be able to, pick up a free agent to replace
Uh,
that player. But
this
nope,
makes sense now. Yeah.
they don't have that rule. They make it that waivers process at 11 a.m. and if you're screwed out of luck if you can't get a player, a free agent. They just don't open their free agent pool, and it's frustrating because I joined this league and my mindset was like, my approach is going to be like, I know that there's going to be the fantasy footballers hive mind and everybody's going to like go after the players that they've been talking about. So I'm just going to take a kind of an opposite approach. Just take who I think best player available is, take a little bit of a zero running back approach. And lo and behold, all the freaking lemmings out there that followed the fantasy footballers advice are sucking it up. And I'm 8-2. I probably don't even need to win with Lamar Jackson out because I'm, so strong at the top of the league that I'm in, top in points for, top in record. So yeah, I am, kind of like embarrassing the fantasy footballers with my like style, high level of play, going off like absolutely none of their advice. And I understand like why they're trying to limit my ceiling here. But it's kind of like an embarrassing look for them as an organization. And personally, I demand an apology.
So I'm glad you got that off your chest. I could tell you needed to do that. I'm curious what your points for is, because if you're 8-2, you're probably near the top of the entire tournament right now.
My points for is like 1100.
Oh, okay. So you are not like top 100 because there are people with 1400 plus points for there, but what's your team name, if you don't mind? I'm just going to self indulge here for a second.
It is. I thought. I have to check. I thought it was just like Team Yeti Money. I don't think I made a team name.
Okay, let's see. Oh, yeah, here you are. You are in 1500th place, which is top 10% of the league, which is pretty good. Oh, you
Yeah.
have 1300 points scored, it says.
Oh,
Yeah, you're doing pretty good.
yeah. Like I said, I'm doing pretty
Excellent.
good.
Okay, so yeah, who cares about Lamar Jackson? You'll probably win this week anyway, just based on how ridiculous fantasy football the game is in general. Just like you probably
Well,
don't need that 40 points that you'll
I'm
just win
going up
Sunday.
against CMC and Zeke, and
Oh, you'll need that. You'll need that point.
yeah. So it's kind of whack, but I don't think it really like. I don't think it hurts me because like
The playoff structure is
the
different.
playoff structure is like every week it starts assessing. So as long as I get into the playoffs, like I should be
Yeah.
fine. It's just a little annoying because I'm just dominating in that league and I wanted to continue dominating, and their whack settings. This is like the second time this year I've run into settings like this. I don't know if this is like a new thing, but it's whack. And if you're a commissioner of a league that has stupid settings, you should change them to allow a free agency pool to allow players to replace last minute. I mean, if the NFL can pop someone up from the practice squad to replace like a last minute, Lamar Jackson in illness, then I think we should be able to too. So
Yeah, you have a good point there. I would agree. Keep it as flexible as possible up until kickoff time, because like we saw here with Lamar Jackson, you never know. And also, what is up with Lamar Jackson? I mean, is he the most like illness-prone quarterback to play since Sam Darnold caught mono? Like, what's going on?
Can I tell you my Lamar Jackson theory? One second, I'm going to take a sip of this cider, and then I'll tell you my Lamar Jackson theory.
Are you? Yeah, go ahead and take your sip. But I'm wondering if you're about to speculate on the man's like medical history. To what degree you will is interesting to me. I'm curious.
Well, okay, so this is a good cider.
You want to plug your cider? Maybe.
Yeah. Original Sin Cider. Original Sin is really good. If you're not a fan of like how sweet ciders can be, Original Sin leans into more of like the wine taste of a cider. It's a lot less sweet. It's a little more dry, although obviously there's some sugar in there. And this is their Crimson Chaos cider, which is New York apples with a chaotic mix of berries and cherries, and it's popping.
Nice. Yeah, I've had that before. It's a quality cider. I opted for the Frost Proof from Cigar City, Tampa, Florida. Shout out Florida boys here. That's going to be my 6-pack I'm crushing this afternoon. So
very nice. I'm going to work through this cider, and then I have a Killer Cream Ale. I forget the name of that brewery, but their Killer Cream Ale is an outstanding cream ale if you like a nice, smooth, refreshing drink with your Sunday game slate. All right, back to the football.
This live stream brought to you by beer. What else are you going to drink?
By alcoholism. Can you hear Boomy whining, by the way?
Not any more than I can hear my own dog, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay, cool. He's upset because he just got a bath. But my Lamar Jackson hot take is, and this is coming from someone who's I think he's just got GI issues. I think he's just got tummy issues.
That's what I was wondering, if he's got, I don't know, Crohn's or GERD or something.
Crohn's or GERD, yeah, because as someone that has GERD, and like I don't have Crohn's, but I know people with it. It's like it seems similar to that, where it's like you remember that game last year, the famous Lamar poops at halftime game or whatever.
Oh yeah, how could you forget?
yeah. So I think that there might be something there, which is really tough. That's like a miserable thing to go through, and I imagine as a football player even more so, because there's like, especially if like anxiety brings it out, which it does for a lot of people, like in like game day it could just get worse and worse. So hopefully Lamar Jackson is comes back into the fold pretty soon here, because he's a top fantasy asset, and I need him to keep churning away at the Megalo Bowl here.
Do you think it's against regulation for him to just wear diapers and just play through it, so to speak? Just like down, set, and then just like let it all out, and just keep running.
I don't think it's against regulation. It might even be like a good strategy.
Idea.
Like it might make him even more hard to tackle, if there's just a wave of stench emanating. Like, it's like you think on the football field you're not going to think about that, but there's just like an instinctual hold up that comes when you're assaulted with a bad stench. So I think we've figured out how the Ravens can finally win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson here.
Oh, breaking news from Sleeper. Marquise Brown also out with illness.
Okay.
Something's going on.
Who are they playing?
I don't even know. I have the schedule pulled up here. I know they're playing 1:00. They're playing the Bears.
The Bears. I'm about to bet the Bears.
They weren't up on the sportsbook when I looked.
Let me check right now. I bet they took it down. Those cowards. Yeah. Those cowards don't want to. Oh, it's back up, but Chicago's dropped from like plus 300 to plus 110, but you can still get value.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll probably stay away. There's not enough value there for me. I might as well bet the spread at that point. But
yeah, right.
But that's interesting. If you bet on the Bears plus 300, it's looking pretty good right now. But you never know. The Bears have a way of disappointing everyone time and time again.
Yeah. Doesn't look like we got any questions in the chat, which is a bummer after things were popping off last week. So we will talk about some of our own questions here. Dane, in flex, would you flex a Dallas Goedert or a Darnell Mooney?
Ooh, that's close. I think I would go Mooney. He seems to be emerging as the wide receiver one there. Justin Fields has had 2 good weeks, enough to make me feel somewhat comfortable, and Allen Robinson is out. So I think Mooney is a lock for 7 targets, and he's going to catch about 4 to 5 of those at that rate. So if, he has upside for more, of course, and he's a deep threat. Justin Fields is looking for him. So I would go there. I think the ceiling is higher. But I am also flexing Dallas Goedert in a league, our main league, actually. I'm flexing him over Tyler Boyd, over Chuba Hubbard, over Cedric Wilson. And I have AJ Green and Brian Edwards as my wide receiver 2 and 3. So I'm a little weird right there in that wide receiver slot, but I do think Dallas Goedert is a fine flex play.
Look, it hasn't worked out for the Eagles so far, but I like starting a player after they sign a massive extension.
Yeah, I'm sure he's feeling pretty happy about that, right? He got what, $53 million contract over 3 years,
I think it's
guaranteed.
14 and a half a year, which is puts him right up there with the Kelseys and the Kittles of the world, and a tier above the Hunter Henrys and the Jonathan Smiths. So hopefully he can produce like that for the Eagles, because that's a solid contract. That's the contract they didn't give Zach Ertz. So
yeah, good for him, man.
Yeah. I like starting a player off that. So speaking of the Eagles, Kenny Gainwell inactive, Miles Sanders entering back in the fold. I'm in a league where I have Miles Sanders coming back into action. It's not a league where I really want to win or expect to win, but I still want to put the most competitive lineup out there. So would you start David Johnson, or Jamal Williams over Miles Sanders this week?
No, I think you got to go with Sanders there. You just got to hope that what the Eagles are doing with their run game and actually making it part of the game plan, you just got to hope that that translates with Miles Sanders coming back. You hope that he's healthy. It's still a gamble. That backfield could just be a 3-headed monster this week as Miles Sanders, gets back into the fold of things between Boston Scott, Jordan Howard. So his floor is probably as low as either of those guys you mentioned, Jamal Williams or David Johnson, but I think he's on the better offense. And yeah, I just hope that he gets 10 to 15 carries tonight.
Yeah, it would be nice to see them lean into the running approach now that Miles Sanders is back, and keep that going. Do you know who is starting for the Ravens? Is it Trace McSorley?
Yes, good memory.
Actually, this is Tyler Huntley.
Oh, I forgot about him. Yeah. You're right.
Is Tyler Huntley worth the start in Superflex?
If you don't have I just have Kyler Murray, who's ruled out, basically not planning on playing. So would you start Heineke or Huntley? You know what I mean? That's the level I'm at. So maybe.
I think I would start Huntley for the upside, but it's interesting to see, obviously, what are the Ravens offense without Lamar Jackson is always something I'm interested in watching, because it's they can't replicate the Lamar Jackson offense or the Lamar Jackson play calls. So it's kind of interesting to see what is essentially an unscouted offense going into an NFL game against the Bears. They could have an explosive game just based on, there's nothing in the tape about how Tyler Huntley plays and what he wants to do. It does look like he was picked up in our Superflex league, but just kind of interesting to consider.
I do have a question about the wide receiver room in our main league that I briefly mentioned before.
Okay.
So it's not looking great. Just want to get your opinion. I have Brian Edwards and AJ Green in there right now. On my bench is Tyler Boyd and Cedric Wilson. Would you change that up at all?
So who are you starting again? AJ Green and Brian Edwards?
Yeah.
I kind of like Cedric Wilson this week.
That's what I was thinking too.
Not to big brain it, but I think it's it's
the over under is just too massive.
Yeah, it should be a big old shootout. Sometimes those let us down, but it should be a 59-point total game. And Cedric Wilson slotted in very nicely. He's been relevant this season, even with all the receivers on the field. So it'll be interesting. It's if the coverage shifts to Gallup and Lamb, what Wilson can do.
Yeah, Wilson figures to be the slot guy tonight as Gallup goes out wide, but and CD does as well, I believe. But they might mix it up a little bit. They seem to be moving receivers around the field, but I do think the process is fair enough to where I can start Cedric Wilson, and he has, touchdown upside or big play upside in that offense. So, would you bench AJ Green or Brian Edwards for Cedric Wilson at that point?
Personally, I would be benching AJ Green, but
yeah, if Kyler Murray was playing, I might feel differently, but I'm not really feeling great about AJ Green this week with Colt McCoy.
Colt McCoy start. They're playing in Seattle. Seattle defense, nothing to be afraid of, but they've been playing a lot better lately. Like they've gotten their act together, and this is like personally, I think the Seahawks are going to crush the Cardinals. Like I think that like Russ is angry, and this is going to be an angry Russ game. Like they just got shut out at. So now they're playing at home. Russ wants to show that he really did make this miraculous recovery. Not that really, not the Seahawks beating the Cardinals isn't really fantasy relevant, but yeah, I think I like Cedric Wilson's opportunities more than AJ Green personally.
Okay, so you feel good about Brian Edwards over Tyler Boyd then?
No, not really.
Okay, that's my next question. I might just swing Tyler Boyd.
I think Brian Edwards has a lot more upside, but it's
For
one of those things where it's like sometimes it's like the Bengals run by, and like so it's like it's not like we forget the value that Tyler Boyd has, but it's like when they were like on bye for a week, like there's a little bit of like, not what have you done for me lately, but it's like those players are just a little less in the forefront of your mind. Whereas I think like normally we might just like automatically be slotting in Tyler Boyd. What are their projections?
Yeah, that's if I go by projections, it's Tyler Boyd and AJ Green. Brian Edwards is at 7 points. Tyler Boyd is at 9.2. AJ Green at 9.8. And I'm already starting Zach Ertz in the tight end slot for the Cardinals, so I don't know that I want to double up with the Colt McCoy led offense this week on that.
Yeah, I would definitely be sitting AJ Green if it was
Okay.
up to me. The Brian Edwards Tyler Boyd one is really like a true coin flip for me. But like to me, it's exciting to get Cedric Wilson in your lineup.
Yeah, I will feel pretty smart if he gets a touchdown or a 60-yard pass or something, But yeah, Brian Edwards is kind of in that same vein where it's like he might not have more than 3 to 4 targets, but if he breaks one deep, then he's gonna be a good play. So it's like a floor play with Tyler Boyd and then ceiling with very little floor with Brian Edwards.
I mean, yeah, Brian Edwards put up a 0. But it should 2 weeks ago, but it should be a fairly competitive game, I think.
I'm going to stick with Tyler Boyd. He's been good to me in the past, but yeah. Brian Edwards is worth having on the bench, I guess.
Tyler Boyd's as reliable as they come. I mean, well, while we're talking about Brian Edwards, would you start him?
You cutting out a little bit there. Let's see when you get back here. And there you go. Brian Edwards over who? Sorry.
Devontae Smith, Mike Williams, or T. Higgins.
It's a good question.
Personally, I don't think I would, but there's tough matchups in all those games.
Yeah, I don't think I would either. No, he just has too inconsistent of a floor. If you need if you're projected to lose by 20 points, then maybe you go for the ceiling play there with Brian Edwards, but I think it's fine the way we have it.
Would you start Dawson Knox or Zach Ertz?
Well, that's a good question. I would start Dawson Knox, I think. They're playing Indy. I think Indy's going to keep the game competitive. Buffalo's going to have to pass the ball, and Indy is weak against the pass. So, yeah, Dawson Knox, he's not a volume guy. Zach Ertz is more the volume guy there, but I think he has a better deep play upside for touchdown than Zach Ertz.
Agreed. I mean, he was top of the league for a while before that injury. Okay, here's a tougher one. Okay, so 3 running back spots. My running backs are Zeke, David Montgomery, Myles Gaskin, and Jordan Howard, and Tony Pollard. At wide receiver, I have T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, Kadarius Toney, and Cedric Wilson. So which three players am I starting? Obviously, I'm starting Zeke and David Montgomery, and I'm probably going to start T. Higgins and Waddle. I don't know. It's tough. I mean, the lineup I have, I'm starting right now Higgins, Waddle, Elliott, Gaskin, and Montgomery. Do I swap out Gaskin for Montgomery and flex Cedric Wilson or Kadarius Toney? What would you be doing with this lineup?
Um, man, yeah. So you have Montgomery in there?
Montgomery's in there.
Okay. And then you're wondering if you should get rid of Gaskin for Toney.
Or
Maybe
Waddle for Wilson or Toney. Yeah.
is this full PPR or half?
This is half PPR.
Okay. If it's half, I think Tony's better play than Waddle, but um I don't know. I don't think you can take Gaskin out of there just because the matchup is so good, as much as I don't like the player for fantasy purposes counting on him. But I think his floor is probably 10 points this week, so it's pretty solid.
I'll have to think more about that Toney for Waddle thing. So you would start Kadarius Toney over Cedric Wilson this week?
Yeah, I think so.
That's a tough one.
It is tough. Like I'm not confident in it, but I just think Toney is an explosive weapon, and he could catch a 4-yard pass and take it to the house. And Cedric Wilson, he needs a deep ball to do that. So
I think I'm going to keep Waddle in.
Okay.
But it's tough because I am a Toney truther, but I'm starting him in another league. So, okay. Here's one for you. Wait, are the Chiefs playing this week?
Yeah, they're playing Dallas. What do you mean?
Something with the Yahoo interface. Like I have Tyreek Hill on my bench. I struggle with the Yahoo interface. Okay, so you wouldn't start Devontae Smith over T. Higgins, right?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we've seen Devontae Smith obviously catch a stride recently, but I don't know. Maybe you do. Because
maybe you do. Yeah.
I think you actually do. T. Higgins is good, but unless he catches a touchdown, he's not going to get more than like 7 points, really. I think he had one game where he had like 14, 13 targets, which was great, but that's not going to be the norm. He's going to have 6.
And if I remember, he only caught like half of them.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think Devontae Smith probably. He has a better chance of a touchdown than T. Higgins, I would guess.
Go Birds. It doesn't matter if I win, so I'd rather start the Eagles anyway. Okay, would you start? And this is the league where passing yards are calculated, like rushing or receiver yards would be calculated. Would you be rolling with Joe Burrow, or would you start Tannehill against the Texans?
That's a good question. Maybe Tannehill, I think.
Okay. No, Derrick Henry has to pass more.
Yeah, and we've seen him have 2 solid weeks without Derrick Henry there. So, yeah, the matchup is just cake. He could have 2 to 3 touchdowns in the first half, and I feel comfortable with that.
Okay. Man, I'm sorry. The Yahoo interface is just so bad. We're in week 11, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So would you start? All right. So running back, I'm starting Miles Sanders and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which, 3 or 4 months ago, I might be looking forward to. Would you start? These are waiver wire players: Alex Collins, Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, Nyheim Hines. Would you start any of those guys, really? Latavius Murray, any of those guys over Miles Sanders? Even CEH, with all the news about we don't know how much workload he's going to get and all that stuff.
I mean, that's my only concern. But if that's the case, Seattle also plays at the 4:00 slot. So if you're seeing some fears in the warmups with Clyde, then swap to Alex Collins because he'll get the volume. I don't think he'll do too much with it. He's like a 3.5 yard per carry guy. Unless he gets a touchdown, he's not going to score a ton of points. But at least you have a pivot. I think you have to go with Clyde if he's active in that game with Dallas. But yeah, there are some concerns there. You're right.
Yeah. All right, last lineup question I got. I feel pretty good about this one. In PJPL in our main league, I'm up 27 points because the Patriots defense, I would be really bummed if I lost this matchup, but hopefully the Patriots will anchor my team here. But in the wide receiver position, I've got Lockett, Tony, and Mooney currently starting. My other option is Jamal Agnew, which I really think it's pretty funny. Like we decided to start Jamal Agnew, and he had like one of the weirdest successful games I have ever seen. like I think was targeted 4 times, didn't catch any of those 4 targets. Got a few rush attempts. 2 of them went nowhere, and then one went for like a long touchdown. And so, not really something that you could rely on week to week, but it's clear that they do want to use Agnew in sort of that gadgety role, and they do have a winnable game against a mediocre defense in the Niners. Would you start Agnew over Tony, Mooney, or Lockett, or would you roll with what Sleeper has as the highest projected trio here?
Yeah, I would keep it the way you have it. Agnew is, we've seen his floor is low, but they're trying to use him. And like we saw him break a play. That's pretty cool. That's great when it happens. When it doesn't, you're left high and dry. I think Tony is fully capable of doing similar things. Mooney is the presumable wide receiver 1 there for Chicago, and they're playing a ill Baltimore Ravens team. So I doubt the Ravens can control the time of possession as much as they normally would, hopefully giving Chicago more opportunities. Tyler Lockett, has been disappointing at times, but he can also score 40 points on the week. Definitely keep him in your lineup. So I think you got it solid. It's funny looking at your roster because you have my running backs, and I was like, wait a second.
yeah. So Dane and I did I'm feeling pretty good about that trade for both of us personally. I don't know how. I mean, now with Cooper out, it's like you probably wouldn't have made it because Cooper's going to miss a couple games. But other than that, I feel like it worked out for both of us.
Yeah, that's very sad about Cooper. Get vaxxed, people, please. God, I'm so sick of it. Anyways,
yeah. Also, shout out Debbie in the chat. Mentioning that she was wrong about the Bucks and Jags last week, and that we were right about Heineke, which while it was nice to predict that accurately, I will say that I bet real money on the Bucks. So from a financial standpoint, it wasn't great for me, but it was also fun to watch, just an upset. It's fun when Tom Brady loses. I will admit it, but it's also fun when he wins. So hopefully the Bucks will get back on track against the Giants this week. Did you know that? So the Bucks have lost their last 2 games. Brady has only had 1 3-game losing streak in his entire career. So if somehow they lose to the Giants, which I don't think is going to happen, but if somehow they lose to the Giants, that'll be Brady's second 3-game losing streak of his 20+ year career, which is absolutely insane. Tom Brady is the GOAT, but also, is this I can't even say it with a straight face
because that's what all the talking heads will be saying if it happens too. Is Brady finally done? And then it's just so ridiculous. Get that out of here. Until he leaves the field on a stretcher or retires, get that nonsense out of here. But you're right. That's very cool stat. I didn't know that he only had 1 3-game slip in his career, 21-year career. That's pretty crazy. I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah, I would bet pretty big money on the Bucks to win that game. But, you would have said the same thing about the Washington football team last week, but I just don't think the Giants had it in them. So.
And the Giants are better than the Washington football team, I would say, but sometimes weird stuff just happens. So let me ask you something about Tom Brady. I think he's signed through next year with the Bucks, right? That's his extension.
Yeah.
Or is it just so let's say let's say Bucks go to the playoffs this year. Maybe they win the Super Bowl again. Maybe they just obviously they're going to playoffs, so they have another good year. And then next year they have a decent year. Maybe it's not as good, but they go to the playoffs again. Are the Bucks re-signing? What do you think the market would be for a 47-year-old Tom Brady?
47-year-old Tom. That's a wild question. I mean, it would be a 1-year deal for a team that's built to win now, and he would just be a game manager. I imagine by then his arm will show signs of falling off, toward Big Ben level. But we can't judge the man on a mortal scale right now.
Plus, he's never been an arm guy. He's never won because of his arm,
he's
the strength.
He's been more of a touch and a football IQ guy. So yeah, I would agree there. His deep ball is not gone, which a lot of people were speculating would be his downfall. Going to the Bucks, it wouldn't make any sense. He couldn't throw a
He
deep
throws a
ball,
better deep ball now than he ever did with the Pats. Yeah.
which is ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not doubting him until I see any reason to. And the 47-year-old quarterback in the NFL, I don't know. I don't know if we'll see it. I would love to. It's just going to be, football will be a little less great when he retires. So
Absolutely. Giselle will probably have some say there. I did also want to ask you about Ramondre Stevenson from like a dynasty perspective, as a Pats fan perspective. What are your thoughts? Is Ramondre Stevenson someone that could become a year-to-year fantasy relevant asset on the Pats, or is this just another running back that's flashing in the Patriots offense that will be impossible to predict week to week?
I think it's both. I think Ramondre Stevenson is very talented. He reminds me a lot of LeGarrette Blount, the way he runs. He's a very powerful guy. I mean, he can throw a stiff arm on the edge and make you look silly like you're a high school player in the NFL field. But, his talent is undeniable, and he's still a rookie, so Belichick is still gaining trust. I think he's going to be an asset, but I do think the unpredictability of the Patriots backfield will persist. Damian Harris is still young. I don't think he's just going to go by the wayside. I mean, there's a low chance they would get rid of Damian Harris after his rookie contract. I don't see it happening myself, but
you think they're going to re-sign Damian Harris?
I don't know, but he's still got another year there, and then at that point, Ramondre Stevenson has 2 years gone in his rookie contract, and he would only have 2 more. So there's a 2-year window where he could be the RB1 in my opinion, and by then who knows who else is on the roster. It's still probably hard to predict week to week as well. So I don't know. I love him as a player. I love watching him play for my team. He looks explosive. I like when he gets the ball, like just as much as I enjoy watching Damian Harris run the ball. So it's to answer your question, I think at best he'll have an RB1 week type game if Damian Harris is out, but you're never going to be able to predict otherwise.
So here's another running back question for you. Who do you think the next running back to get a second contract will be? And when I say second contract, I don't mean 1 year, 4 million, 2 years, 6 million. I mean a real contract.
I
can tell you my answer if that helps.
Yeah, it does help.
Jonathan Taylor.
Oh, you think he'll get one early, you mean, is what you're saying?
I think he'll get one early, and I'm struggling to think of running backs that are worth a second contract that have not already signed that second contract.
Yeah, that's a good point. I can't think of anybody like in a contract year right now. That's
like Sanders. I don't think Sanders is going to get re-signed.
That's who I was just looking at right now. Sanders and
Eckler. Maybe Eckler, I think, is already signed.
Yeah, he is. He got extended.
There's like J.K. Dobbins is out there, but he doesn't seem any more than he's more talented than the Jag, but I think the Ravens are a smart team that are more likely to replace him in the draft than
maybe David Montgomery, but he's still got 2 years on his rookie deal, right?
2 years, and Khalil Herbert looks good.
Yeah.
It's just like more and more teams are realizing the ease of replacing that position, whether through the draft or free agency, and they're also realizing how much a large running back. Oh wait, has Saquon signed an extension?
That's what I was just looking at. He has, to my knowledge, not.
Okay,
that's got to be the biggest name in that category.
Yeah, they have not.
Wow.
Not. That's going to be interesting to me. Massive mistake if they extend Saquon Barkley from a team building perspective, but.
I see your point. Yeah, the case can be made, and I wouldn't hate that take at all. But when he's healthy, he's great. But they just need a quarterback so desperately that it's irrelevant if they re-sign him unless they have a good quarterback. So,
and what are you going to pay $15 million a year to a running back that's injured all the time, that hasn't really done anything for you during his entire rookie contract? He's put up the numbers, but show me the games that the Giants have won because of Saquon Barkley. There's probably maybe 2 of them out there.
Yeah. I don't disagree with your take at all. At best, you sign him to a 2-year deal, and you need a quarterback to make that justified, because who's to say a rookie quarterback is going to have a playoff run in the first 2 years? That's very unlikely. So unless you're getting a veteran to come in there and there's not a whole lot of them to go around, I don't know. It doesn't really make sense. You raise a good point there.
So to bring this a little bit back to fantasy, I feel like that mindset, or at least how I'm thinking about it, is really feeding my dynasty perspective of like as soon as a running back hits 25, like I'm ready to trade him.
Yeah, that's a good point. I would agree. That's why I picked up Saquon in the first place, because he was still on his rookie contract for 2 years. So it was enough for me to know I'll have 2 years of this guy's role pretty secure. Unfortunately, I haven't had him very much this year healthy, but yeah, after next year, might want to move on mid next year if he's looking good. Try to trade high, but we'll see how that goes.
Saquon's one of those players that will almost certainly get extended by the Giants because of marketing reasons and not actual football reasons, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's a big name. He's obviously the best player on that team. You know, maybe Kadarius Toney can rival him at some point here soon, but I think it's pretty safe to say that he's the best player on that team when he's healthy.
James Bradbury's good.
Well, I meant for fantasy.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
Well, come on, IDP man.
You pay far more attention to real NFL lineups than I do, but I do have another question for you in our Superflex league, but it's about running backs. Miles Sanders is back. You said, would you play Miles Sanders against New Orleans or Deontay Foreman, running back for the Tennessee Titans against Houston?
I would play Deontay Foreman against Houston.
Okay, that's what I was leaning as well. I know he's healthy. He's only splitting with one other guy, Adrian Peterson, right now, and that should be cakewalk. If there's garbage time, he's going to be running the ball, right? Like with Adrian Peterson. So, okay.
Yeah, and it looks like Adrian Peterson is starting to cede touches. You know what I mean?
I agree. And I assume that you would have Jeff Wilson Jr. above both those names, correct?
I would, yes.
Okay.
Especially since you're a Jeff Wilson truther.
Oh, I am. This is my week. Yeah. I held him in my IR slot for 11 weeks. He's going.
So a couple thoughts on this. This is not my take on Deontay Foreman, but because he has dreads and I think he's running a number that's like a kind of similar to Henry's number. Someone described him, and he's like just a little smaller, but he's also a big guy. Someone described him as cosplaying Derrick Henry. And I think that's pretty funny. But yeah, I think Foreman, I mean, he'll get the usage, better matchup. And then this, if it was a different opponent and if it was Miles Sanders' second game back from injury, I would say Miles Sanders all the way. But it's just a confluence of factors of Jordan Howard has looked good at just taking what's there, at taking what the offensive line gives them. Miles Sanders has struggled to do that in the past. So the key to this resurgent Eagles running game is kind of just a straightforward running back approach, and that could limit Miles Sanders' touches there. If Miles Sanders dances around in the backfield on his first carry and gets tackled for a loss, like we're not seeing a lot of Miles Sanders for the rest of the game. And then add on the fact that the New Orleans defense is significantly by DVOA the best run defense in the league. It's just not a great matchup for someone coming back from injury into an uncertain situation, would be my take there.
Okay, I agree. I just wanted to verify. That's exactly how I felt about it. I'd probably feel differently too if Jeremy McNichols was healthy. It would just be a little more concerned. It'd be like a similar situation, but better matchup from a less talented player, less proven player at least. And then, I don't know. But anyways, I agree with the current situation there. So
let me ask you, I think we can get close to wrapping here, but I did add one more question. Mm-hmm. Do you think Tony Jones is fantasy relevant this week?
Oh, that's a very good question. I would have to say no, unless you're in like a 14-team league or something, but I don't see why you'd want to play him over some other middling options. Like I would play Devin Singletary over him, and I don't even want to play Devin Singletary or roster him anywhere. So it's like, he might be like the 36th running back I'd play this week. Like that's where I'm at. I'd play Boston Scott over him. Like it just
okay.
Yeah, so I don't think he could score a touchdown, and I'd be wrong if he does, but I don't think his role is going to be massive in a game where I don't think they'll hit over 43 points. So
couple close. Oh, Kenny Gainwell inactive. Any thoughts on that?
No, it is strange. I don't know what's going on with there with him, but
he looked so good to start the season. He just must not be reliable in pass pro or something like that.
I think that's got to be it, because otherwise, why would Jordan Howard be beating him out? He's not a better explosive running back. He's just more reliable, and he's been on the team before. He understands how to play football at the NFL level. Kenny Gainwell is probably just on a learning curve, and since they signed Jordan Howard to the active roster, they either have to cut him or make somebody inactive. So I think that's why.
I like it. Any thoughts on the Wheel of Time television show premiere?
Katie mentioned that you've been promoting it on your Facebook in the recent past. I don't know anything about it, but I will watch it just because, if you say it's good, you've had a pretty good track record so far. So.
Well, I'm curious to know your thoughts on the show, because I'm a huge fan of the books. They're probably, they've like supplanted Harry Potter, as an adult, as like my favorite sort of, series, fantasy world, and so on. The show is good so far. It's not incredible, but I also have like the, all those adaptation baggage of like,
Yeah.
oh well, they didn't do this right, they didn't do this right. So I'd love to know, if you do check it out, what your thoughts are as someone that hasn't read the books and doesn't know anything about the world.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely let you know. What show am I watching recently? I keep forgetting. Oh, I watched that Arcane show on Netflix based on League of Legends.
I wanted to ask you about that too, because no, I'm not, never played League of Legends, not a League of Legends fan, but I've heard that the show is really, really good. So I've thought about checking it out.
Yeah, you don't need to know anything about League of Legends to be able to watch the show, which is great. They were smart to do that. There are, of course, little things that
I heard there's like some fan service, but it doesn't impact it. Yeah.
But it's not, it's not the main theme of the show, which is great. It's a little darker than I thought it would be, which is cool. Some interesting characters that as a League player for 10 years, I haven't been introduced to. So, they're using it as a way to bring new characters into the universe while, showing you some that you already know and love. So definitely a good show. I mean, the art style is pretty interesting. Soundtrack is decent. They do play Imagine Dragons in there. So it's like, but it's only like 15 to 30 seconds in the show. So,
well, good for Netflix and good for League, because if a year ago you had told me that like Netflix was making an animated League of Legends show, I would have said it's going to be bad and it's going to be for 10-year-olds. And I've heard that it's very good. So I'm excited to check that out as well.
Yeah, I believe the whole season is out now too. So, and it got a 10 out of 10 on IGN's rating system for what that's worth.
For what that is worth. All right, cool. Any Pokemon thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, we are probably like 30 hours deep into
30 hours.
We have over leveled so many Pokemon. We are like as we speak, there is Pokemon training going on in my living room. Our starter is like level 54.
Oh, so you guys are sharing an account. No wonder you've been moving so, because I'll play it for a while and then I'll just like, it's fun, but it's fun for like 2 hours for me. And then I'm like, all right, I need to do something else.
It is great to be able to hand off the controller. Like this morning, I woke up a little early. I played for like 2.5 hours. I was getting a Lucario and getting a Gabite, which evolves into Garchomp, if you're familiar with that cool dragon ground Pokemon. So our team is assembled, leveling them up. Got a Houndoom in there. Got who else is in there? Oh, Alakazam, which thank you for helping me trade that and level him up, by the way.
Well, I didn't think that you guys were going to be putting in 30 hours. I've put in like 7 hours. Yeah, I am much further behind. As soon as I found the underground, I wasted about 2 straight hours mining for gems. I had a lot of fun with that addition to the game.
The underground is cool because you can catch a lot of rare Pokemon that you wouldn't otherwise have access to there. So I would definitely keep an eye out for those.
Well, and I really missed I was like, oh, the Pokemon don't appear above ground like they do in Sword and Shield and whatnot. Yeah. And so they brought that wild area aspect into the underground, which is kind of cool. I spotted a Scyther down there. I was out of Pokeballs, but I'll definitely be heading back down there to grab that Scyther, because that is a top 5 coolest looking Pokemon. And that's pretty much how I build my team. My one objection so far, and you already brought it up, is that in like the second town I'm at, I just talked to some random people and they give me 2 legendary Pokemon. So I've got like a Geodude, my starter, and then like a Mew, and I forget the name of Jirachi, and I'm like, this is like I'm used to having to earn this stuff. Like, should I keep these in my party or like, like what? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just put them in the box because, like you said, yeah, I'm not going to just assemble a team of legendaries. Like that's kind of ridiculous. I definitely value catching and raising and developing a Pokemon, that I like and chose, rather than, oh, here you go, here's a legendary. Like it's cool that they made it easy to get, because they were so hard to get back in the day. You had to have a Nintendo event password, and like
Yeah.
those were really only in Japan. So it's like, unless you traded or hacked the game, it's impossible to get. So it's cool they did that for the people that want it, the casual kids and all that. Not to say that being casual at Pokemon is a bad thing. I'm pretty casual as well, but
Yeah. It's just, like I would have liked to have to beat the Elite Four before I got that or something like that.
yeah. And I am trying to fill out the Pokedex as well, trying to go big. Like,
Are you guys going to try and complete the Pokedex?
Yeah, I think so. We've already caught probably 50% of the Pokemon Pokedex in this region.
Geez, you guys are grinding.
Yeah, the Switch hasn't turned off very much.
That's dope. Yeah, I've caught I think like 11 Pokemon. So
Okay.
I'm right there with you. But yeah, once my Geodude evolves into a Graveler, I will hit you up because I definitely want a Golem as part of my party because I've always loved Golem as a Pokemon.
Yeah, he's cool looking. I could never get over the rock ground types. They're just so susceptible to a lot of things. Like
They
everything,
are, yeah.
Everything has like fighting, water, or grass. Like that's everywhere, so it's hard.
It is hard. What I like about them is like if you run into someone that doesn't have that, you can just annoy the crap out of them. Just like, like do a couple moves that also raise your defense, and you're just making that battle miserable. You're basically the Pittsburgh Steelers of Pokemon. You're just dragging them down into the muck with you.
That is exactly right. Yeah, and against electricity and fire types, you're just unstoppable. So
absolutely. All right. Well, this is wrapped up Pokemon chat. Live every
Yep.
Sunday. We'll be talking about Pokemon, Pokemon Stardom Sidoms. But yeah, thanks for all that tuned in to the Sunday Mass. Enjoy the slate of games, and we will see you guys for the Monday pod.
Peace. Thanks for joining us.
Okay. Stream is over.